West Africa, India, global mission pioneers, and much, much more. Coming up next on Global Mission Snapshots.
Just before he went up to heaven, Jesus gave us a command. He gave us a mission. Jesus said, "Go. Go unto all the world, telling them of His love." This is our mission. This is our global mission.
Hello and welcome to Global Mission Snapshots. I'm Gary Krause. Today we'll be talking with Joe Watts, Disaster Response Coordinator for Adventist Community Services in North America. We'll be talking about how the Adventist Church helps when people's lives are disrupted by disaster. And we'll talk with Delbert Pearman, Planning Director for Global Mission, about Global Mission pioneers. Pastor Pearman knows firsthand about the challenges of mission after serving as a missionary in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. But first up, let's visit a school in West Africa and find out what happened when they were hit by a surprise storm.
Not far from the main street in Divo, a small city in the country of Côte d'Ivoire, students are studying hard in their classrooms in a Seventh-day Adventist school. The school was started 50 years ago by Seventh-day Adventists who had a dream about what Adventist education could do for people in this West African country. Today, the school has grown to more than 450 students. Most of them will never forget what happened nearly a year ago. The school day seemed like any other day that April. The morning had passed quietly, and teachers and students at the Divo Adventist School had finished lunch and were settling back into classes.
Everything started in April 2008. It was 2 in the afternoon when the rain started. It was only one classroom that was full with students, and when it started, the children came out and ran to take refuge somewhere. The wind was blowing so much that everyone was afraid, and fortunately for us, the front 2 classrooms were empty.
That afternoon, a mighty storm whirled across the campus, ripping the roof from a couple of the classrooms. Students and staff at the school praised God that the 2 classrooms that were damaged the most were empty at the time. They look forward to the day when the roof will be repaired and they can use the classrooms once again. Thank you for supporting Adventist education, and thank you for supporting the mission offerings.
My guest is Pastor Joe Watts, who heads up disaster response for the North American region of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Thanks for joining us, Joe.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Now, disaster response, when we think of disasters, we think of floods, hurricanes. They're the sort of things you're dealing with.
Well, those and a lot of other things. Anytime human beings are not able to take care and sustain themselves, and that's really considered a disaster. So it can be a lot of different things. For example, in Newtown, we had that terrible tragedy with the young children that were killed. That's a tremendous disaster. It's not a flood, it's not a tornado, it's not a hurricane, but it's a tremendous disaster, and we've been able to help with that.
And this is when people are at their most vulnerable. They're looking for help, and the Christian church sometimes turns a blind eye.
Yes, and we need to reach out because after all, ACS is a ministry of compassion.
That's Adventist Community Services, right?
Right, yeah, use acronyms.
Yeah.
And Adventist Community Service is a ministry of compassion, and that's what we as church members should be thinking about and doing in our communities of how can we help people that are hurting, that are in our communities. We don't have to wait for a disaster to happen to look for needs and people that need help in our community.
Can you give me some examples of some of the people's lives that you've been able to help in recent times?
Well, I think about a year or so ago, we had a tornado in Woodard, Oklahoma, and we had a couple there that had been studying with a local pastor, and I think they had just been baptized, and they went back to their tornado-ravaged house, and as it was, most things were blown away. One thing they found were some pages of their Bible study, and they were so thrilled to find their Bible study pages because it meant so much to them, and it's kind of an interesting thing. Another one was in Hurricane Sandy. One thing that we did there, or our people did, and I was so proud of our laity, our volunteers, because Adventist Community Service is a volunteer organization. It's manned by volunteers. It's mainly volunteers and laity making a difference in people's lives. And they went out and did mobile distribution, took things in trailers and trucks and went out to the people. And the problem was public transportation was down, and so they couldn't have the ability to go and get. And a lot of the organizations were setting up good distribution centers with a lot of good things, but the people couldn't get there. And so it was very interesting, or very good. I know one man had a little grocery cart, one of the little, a pull cart, not a grocery cart, but a little two-wheel cart that he would take to the store to get his groceries. And he said, I can't go the 2 or 3 miles to where they're giving out stuff. He said, I've heard there's a lot of good stuff being given out, but I can't get there. And if I could, and he said, but you've brought it to me. And so we did that a lot. Our young people did a lot of running upstairs with water to get water and food to the people in the high-rise buildings that the elevators was out with electricity out, and they dug sand out of basements and just all kinds of things.
Are there any particular areas that Adventist Community Services specializes in? Are there any areas that you're particularly good at?
Well, disaster response, of course, is the big one, just because disasters are increasing. But we have some other ministries that are really, really excellent, and tutoring and mentoring, where we take and help young children, mainly in the area of 4th and 5th grade, that age group. Andrews University wrote a curriculum. It's a tremendous curriculum to help those young people. And as you work with those young people on a regular basis and tutor them and mentor them, it makes a real difference in their lives. Crisis care, we're one of the newer ministries where we're training our pastors and other professionals how to help people after a tragedy or a disaster. We have elder care is one of our newest ministries also, where we're thinking about senior citizens. And the senior citizens, not only the senior citizens, but also the caregiver. And helping that caregiver and helping them find ways to help, and also to make through with their own thinking and their own feelings. We have, let me see, I've talked about then community development, which is urban ministries, and your food pantry comes under there. Your old-time Dorcas comes under there. We haven't forgot Dorcas.
For viewers who have never heard of Dorcas, what is that? Well,
Dorcas was kind of the term that we used because of the Dorcas in the Bible that helped other people, and that became a term that we used to describe our ministry to the church's ministry, where maybe they had a place where there were clothing and maybe food, and it was, and we learned an awful lot from our grandmas that taught us about Dorcas and caring. And then the last area is youth empowered to serve. We need to make sure that our youth understand service. And if youth understand service at the very beginning of their lives, and they're young, statistics and studies have shown that they will continue to do service throughout their lives. And so that makes a tremendous impact. And we've got a good young man down in Florida, that Justin Vibbard, that's leading that out and doing a terrific job.
Wonderful. Now, how many Adventist Community Service centers are there in North America?
I think there's about 1,250 service community centers. Every church should have one. Yes. But they don't, but we, from the big to the small, we've got some huge centers, but also just the food pantry maybe in the church.
Now, if people want to find out more information about ACS, Can they go to the web?
They can go to the web, communityservices.org.
Okay.
That's with an S. Make sure you put an S on the community services.
Fantastic. Joe, thanks so much for joining us
Hey,
today.
my pleasure. It's great.
Viewers at home, perhaps you might find some way that you can be involved in community services. If you want to find out more information, don't forget that you can go to the web, go to communityservices.org. Maybe there's a place for you to be able to connect with people in the community, to help them, perhaps when they're most in need. I'm delighted to welcome my colleague, Pastor Delbert Pearman, who is going to talk to us about Global Mission Pioneers.
Yes.
Delbert, for me, it's always a privilege to meet a pioneer in the field, because I see sacrifice, I see dedication, and it's usually a wake-up call, a reminder to me about, where are my values. Tell us about Global Mission Pioneers. Who are they?
Well, Global Mission Pioneers are people who work among their own people group. And there are some advantages to that. Number one, they don't have to learn a new culture like traditional missionaries. They don't have to leave home. They don't have to learn a new language. And they're already well known in the community. And so as a result, they can reach their people very quickly, and through support through the church structure, they're able to witness and raise up a church. And the work of the Global Mission Pioneer is to plant a church among a people group within their own community that probably did not have access to Christianity or to the Adventist message before that.
Now, when you say they don't have to leave their own home, you mean like their own cultural group, but they may have to travel some way to...
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, they might have to travel some distance, but they're already established among their people group.
Yeah. Now, Delbert, these are trained for 4 years in a theological seminary before they're sent out?
No. And that's the beauty of the Pioneer program, is that you don't have to have any academic training, theological training. You just have to have a love for the Lord, a passion for reaching the people target group. And once you have that, you have the support of the organized church with resources to help you to get started.
So most Global Mission Pioneers would go through a basic training course,
yes,
covering the fundamentals of witnessing, what to do when they go into the community, etc. But
right.
It's not like a 12-month course or anything.
No, that's correct. That's correct. And through this program, with the support of a local church, they're able to do so much more, because they're, as it can be considered, they don't come as a threat coming from outside of the people group, but they are already there. Right.
Now, Delbert, you've met many pioneers.
Yes.
Tell me a story about a pioneer.
Well, there is one pioneer working in a particular country, a very difficult country, who is a physiotherapist. And he decided that he wanted to dedicate his physiotherapy practice to not only reaching the people within their community, but also to win them to Christ and to help them through their problems. This part of the world is known for war, and there are a lot of people who are stressed. And so he practices, he has won the confidence of this community, and then where he has opportunity, he shares with them health principles, which further leads them to further questions, and then he is ready and prepared to share even about Jesus and his love for them. And so that's one that has excited me. Another example is in a country into America, and here they have purchased a boat, and the local church organized by this Global Mission Pioneer, would take tracts, food supplies, and he travels up and down this river on this boat, and to all the villages along the river, he would stop, witness to this community, help them in their needs, and even helps them with their children who are illiterate. Many times he would take them, have like little vacation Bible school programs for them on that particular day. And this is another project that we are happy to support. And there are several projects like that. We're even working among, in one particular country where the commercial sex trade is very popular, that we have a Global Mission Pioneer working among these men and women. And we have a group that's just recently graduated with the Discovery Bible lessons. And there are others in other brothels are saying, come over and teach us. And so we reach people in so many different ways. Most of our church planting comes through, most of our Global Mission Pioneers are involved in church planting. And they will go about in the community offering Bible studies, giving prayers in the home, and also for visiting them when they are sick, offering small remedies to help and winning confidence, and as a result are very successful in that area.
They always remind me of Jesus' incarnational ministry, that he came and he lived among the people. He didn't just come and visit and then leave. He actually stayed there, and that's what the pioneers do. They'll stay there for years. They'll become part of the community. They'll work in the fields with the people. They'll play soccer with the kids. They mingle.
Yes.
And as you say,
Yes.
they win confidence.
Yes. You know, the book Evangelism says that 3,000 will be converted in a day, and this is making reference to the time of Pentecost, which will be repeated in these final days of this world's history. And today, the Adventist Church baptizes over 3,000 in every day of the year, and we baptize over 1.1 million people annually, and we've been doing that for the last 7-8 years. Many of those baptisms can be traced back to the work of our Global Mission Pioneers. Their activity is contributing significantly to the numbers of people who are being baptized into the Adventist Church.
Now, you witnessed that firsthand when you were a missionary.
Yes. In 2 countries, I served as secretary as well as treasurer, acting secretary and treasurer, and one was as a secretary. And I was responsible for keeping track of the membership and also the baptisms, and discovered that in both of the countries, the majority of the baptisms were coming through our Global Mission Pioneers. And so that's a testimony to the work of our Global Mission Pioneers.
Wonderful. Delbert, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And to our viewers at home, please continue to pray for Global Mission Pioneers. They're doing a wonderful work. They're doing it at a sacrificial level. They're only receiving a basic living stipend, enough to rent a small room, enough to feed their family, enough to have a few materials, a few resources to use. And so they are sacrificial church planters, usually young people, always lay people, usually young people. Thank you for your continuing support for them.
From my childhood, I have felt very close to God.
Sobhana is a lay evangelist working in India. While her husband is in class at the Adventist Seminary, she travels to homes in remote villages to hold Bible studies. One day, this small group invited a man named Kishore to their meeting. Kishore was a respected priest in several temples in the city, so the Bible study group was new to him. Kishore had many questions to ask.
I asked, I've read in our holy books about a holy man who was highly praised. He was referred to as a man who was inflicted with 5 wounds. Who is this person?
As Kishore learned more about Jesus, with time and study, he became convinced of the truth of what he was learning from the Bible.
Without failure, I continued to have Bible studies with him.
Eventually, Kishore decided to be baptized, but it was a difficult decision. When he left the priesthood in the temple, his wife left him and took their daughter with her. The rest of his family disowned him. Old friends no longer speak to him. Kishore finds strength in sharing the love of Jesus with others. Now, because of Kishore, 9 others have chosen to be baptized. Please continue to pray for Kishore and Sobhana as they share Jesus with those around them. Because of your financial support of the World Budget and mission offerings, people like Sobhana are reaching people like Kishore and starting new groups of believers in India. Thank you for your support of the mission of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. To find out more, please visit adventistmission.org.
I grew up hearing stories and praying for missionaries serving in the islands of the South Pacific. And I think it's so important to teach our children to look beyond themselves to a world in need. Here at Adventist Mission, we've created missionary cards for kids. They feature pictures of children from around the world. They're specifically designed for Sabbath school teachers to give to each child to take home. If you'd like to see a sample set of these cards, just call us or visit our website and ask for Mission Cards for Kids, or you can ask for offer number 302. Please remember to clearly state your name, your mailing address, and be sure to mention Mission Cards for Kids or offer 302. Well, that's about it for today's program, and I hope you've been challenged. I hope you've been inspired by what you've seen and heard. We'll leave you with this music video. For Adventist Mission, I'm Gary Krause, and I hope you can join me next time right here on Global Mission Snapshots.
El mundo corre en busca de sucesos, en tanto existen guerras sin dolor. El hombre sueña con fama y progreso, mas deja así su marcha para atrás. Solo en Dios existe gloria verdadera. Él puede a la vida dar valor. Es Él quien nos promete un mundo nuevo, sin miedo, sin tristeza, sin rencor. La gloria de esta tierra es pasajera, la vida pasa y todo queda atrás. No temo el futuro, pues tengo a Dios conmigo. Se puede acabar el mundo, estoy en paz.
tu camino